All right, welcome to Raising Funds for World Domination, Day 73. So there are no updates on this front. I did not work on any new videos today. Actually, I worked on the block mining game last night. I worked on. I got very close to finishing up the migration of the cuboid address data structure in the block mining simulation game, and I actually merged that in and pushed it today. Phoenix says hello. What's world domination? Actually, my if you check out my most recent long form video, I have a detailed description of my world domination plans in that video. Okay. Finally create a new folder today. So last stream, I think I had where I left off, I had done a few more steps in the conversion of the cuboid address to the new cuboid address, and the final part of that migration was I actually just looked at it today. There's only like 2 or 3 more references and some other classes that I had to change, so I changed those. And then I did the final step off stream, which was to rename that data structure back to. So I deleted the old cuboid address, and then renamed the new cuboid address back to cuboid address. So now the migration is fully complete, and all the data structures in the game use the new coordinates. And so the only real change was the upper coordinate is exclusive instead of being inclusive. And the reason for that whole migration was to simplify a bunch of stuff. So I can probably actually start to do some of the simplification that I wanted to do. So I think one was I have a bunch of null checks. With this thing. So now I can just get rid of the null checks. Darul Quitney says hi. How's it going? Galactic Past says, hello, Robert. How's it going? Are you currently adding multiplayer support to your game? That's not yet. There's a few more user interface glitches I want to fix, just because they're kind of fundamental. If someone tries to run the game and it doesn't work on another platform, then it's going to be kind of a nightmare to debug. And I think if the UI looks, if people boot it up and the UI looks terrible and there's no way to get it working, then that's one of those moments where people are like, oh, this is terrible, and then they'll just close it and forget about it, never think about it again. Have you tested the game on Windows? I have not tested it on Windows. I mean, there's also a question about how would I test it on Windows, because I could probably test it in like the Windows subsystem for Linux. It would probably work okay there. And then I could test it in like Cygwin. I could test it in like command.exe. I could test it in PowerShell. There's quite a few different places where it could potentially run, and probably each of them have a number of different challenges. I think that should work. Ever thought of making a social media API LLM tool and knowledge hierarchy modeling identity to replace passwords, and Dijkstra routing of supply chains? Those are two very different things. Dijkstra routing of supply chains. Let's see. Dijkstra routing of supply chains. That Dijkstra is the shortest path between two nodes in a graph, isn't it? And then, wouldn't you want to use traveling salesman for supply chain routing? Ever thought of a social media API LLM tool and knowledge hierarchy modeling? There are probably there's a lot of words to describe that password replacement concept. So maybe there's probably an idea there, but there's many things that could satisfy what you've described. Is it traveling salesman algorithm of sorts? Let's see if for graph search. Graph search, you can do a depth first and a breadth first search. Google just released an AI that uses context and knowledge in place of passwords. Now we need a social media API. Interesting. That'll be interesting if passwords go away, because passwords are so specific. Like imagine, I could see how that could like work, where it's just like once you go beyond a certain threshold of like demonstrating knowledge of something, the AI lets you through. But what if you like you forget, or like, you know, how does the password reset mechanism work? It's an interesting novel concept. So I got some errors here. But I guess that's what once again, I can maybe replace my null checks. Dijkstra proven optimal not long ago. Dijkstra is just one from one point to another, isn't it? I think traveling salesman, that's the one that visit all points, the like classic NP complete problem. Your brain completes melodies naturally. Amygdala, not prefrontal. My suggested algorithm for data mining in order to model optimize supply chains is basically repetitive. An alphabetical looping on high temperature. I don't know what that means. Dijkstra is the Google Maps directions algorithm. Applies to supply chains. I'm sure there's a lot of math in supply chains. I'm sure there's a lot that applies to supply chains. LLM temperature is how random the responses are. Oh, okay. basically keep prompting until no new results. And skip to A API, because A. Not sure if you meant to write API, but interesting. I haven't read up on Google's plans. I'm sure a lot of stuff is going to change pretty dramatically in the near future with AI. LLM mining? Is that what they call it? Start with A. If A has more than 100 results, use AA. Loop until complete. Alphabetical. I don't really know what you're talking about. It sounds like a slightly out of context snippet from one of these. I just have not. I haven't done the background reading to really know what you're talking about. Imagine distributed dynamic live chat with other humans and hierarchical educational chatter, but then add open supply chain to the app. To accomplish what exactly? An LLM live chat? Are you talking about the password feature, or I'm lacking the context of what you're talking about? Social voting. I thought you wanted world domination. Sure, but I don't. You have to relate. You gotta more clearly relate what you're talking about to something. World domination is not just about supply chain and LLMs. There's a lot of moving parts. I'll try your best. That's good. Doing your best is all you can do sometimes. I think I'll refactor the frame dimensions class. Start with the social media API, and then picture a sort of hierarchical knowledge understanding based on search and lookup. LLM will reach anything known and highlight the unknowns. How can I explain it better? I need more context. So so once I do all that, what will be the outcome? Distributed dynamic LLM live chat. Isn't that kind of what we're doing right now? Anybody can talk in the chat. $100 million people chatting on one topic, but all is one. The LLM telling what people already know. The LLM teaches what we know from the database and adds to what we don't. I mean, that's kind of just like Googling for stuff. You Google for stuff, and then Google's LLM will show you the answer to your question with an LLM, and you can copy and paste what comes on back on Google and do live chat. Never mind. I feel like I'm watching an interaction between two people who don't speak the same language. Yeah, I guess I see some of the concepts there. I get the LLMs, and there's a few different concepts: supply chain management and password. A new password feature, which I didn't know about that, but that sounds like something Google would come up with, like an LLM based password thing. Hey Rob, how much have we raised so far? Probably I should do a total one of these days. It's probably at least 1,500, maybe as much as like. Actually, well, I guess I could probably go to my just look at my revenue tab overall. It's probably like $1,600 or $1,700 at least. To replace voting, but with people who know. These sounds like incomplete ideas. So you want the goal is to create distributed dynamic LLM live chat. So with people chatting with other people, because even if you have something like this, then you're still going to be limited by the rate at which people can talk. If you know how to ask, I could tell you all the technologies needed. I can see how it all works. Well, that's good. So I can't quite see it. So you can build it and then push it to GitHub, and then it'll get really popular. You're not chatting with other humans, you're chatting with other people. But if you CBA, I will go back to my UFO. I'm not sure what CBA stands for. And how's that possible? You said you're not chatting with other humans, you're chatting with other people. But aren't people humans? You're chatting with other LLMs? Okay. But you can already do that. You can already just type into ChatGPT and then copy and paste that. Type it into Google's AI and all the other ones. Goldfish says, I'm a goldfish. That's true. You are a goldfish. The LLM adds to the DB. The DB teaches everyone, and it's live with new topics, and anything anyone says, new said to everyone. I mean, you could argue like existing social media is kind of like that. Like that almost describes Twitter. Goldfish says, I mean, bubble, bubble, bubble. Joker. All right, I'm gonna try to do some work here. My wind muff is not working. There we go. Let me fix my microphone cable. It's really hot here tonight. Now I'm starting to remember why I did all that refactoring. It's because I can clean up a bunch of this code here. – 90% talking, 9% remembering what you're doing. 1% application. Yep, and unless I get into the zone, then I can be high productivity. Is this game completely from scratch? Yes, it is. So many things to know. You need to know just to know what you don't know, let alone knowing it all to begin with. Yep, that describes every large software project. I figured out last night how I got subbed to this channel. I had to become a broke loser at 37-year-old. I was 37, although I am currently 38. So I guess I gotta update the. I need to do a new one for this year. Although I'm not quite as broke, and my situation is less bleak. So much for your world domination video last night. Can't wait to take over the world. Excellent. Glad you liked it. 37 years old and my fins ache already. Yeah, that is quite old for a goldfish. See, so many things. So many things that I could try to simplify. Was it Pinky and Brain reference? I know of that show. I don't think I've ever actually watched it though. Was it popular in Canada in the 90s? I think I saw it on TV. It is something I do remember seeing. Like of the show. I think I didn't watch it because I just didn't. It was one of those shows that I really didn't have an interest in, or it was on at a time that I just never got to see it. Like Reboot? I watched Reboot when I could. It was one of those. I really liked that show, but it was not on. It was hard to like figure out when stuff was on to watch it back in the days. I remember when we first got like a remote that had this like guide thing in it, and that was like revolutionary, so you could see when programs were on in the future. Animaniacs show, Warner Brothers. Yeah, I do vaguely remember it. Hello, Master Robert Alder Software. Can I ask you a personal question? Sure, I guess. I was too busy getting into trouble, running around the neighborhood. Well, that's probably good for development of your youth. Just finished to watch the World Domination. I want to be the head of hydroponic system. Can I send my resume? You can just paste it in the chat. What is your favorite Linux command? Oh, that's a good question. I have a video. If you check my shorts page, I have a video where I explain that. Well, check it out. Excellent. What is the first software you created without help? Probably some like old Q basic programs back when I was a kid. It was hard to find out like how to even program back then, because I was just so young and didn't know where to even look. World Domination, Hydroponic, Chief Resume, Tripled Bunker Kale, Mind Control, LEDs, PhD, I'm not sure what that word, egg regression, patent, photo, this or else. Excellent. You're hired. Once I get to 12 billion, I'll send you some tasks. What's a good place for a kid to start now? That's a good question. I don't even know. I guess Google is the pretty reasonable place to start. There's so many more. Well, YouTube's great because everything's on there. Egg regression equals agriculture plus aggression, like as in anger. We can print our own money. So 12 billion is easy. But then the problem is if you print too much of your own money, the value of it goes down. So if I start printing my own money right now and then go to the bank and then I say, hey, I want to trade this money in, and be like, what's this? This is just paper that you printed. Because my money's not worth enough. I printed too much of it. Wait, that might be enough. That makes sense. I forgot to implement those. We need to establish our own currency. I think for now it makes sense to just use peg everything to an existing currency. What do you do when you lose momentum while working on this project? I don't know. I don't really feel like I have lost momentum. I have a pretty clear idea in mind of what to do next at all times. It's just I can't do it fast enough. Yeah, there's just a long list of real world. So this last month, what have I been doing? Worked on taxes. That was a big distraction. Renovation stuff along the way. Actually, the daily live streaming is actually kind of a bit of a distraction. In terms of losing momentum, if I get away from it and I forget what I'm doing, that definitely makes me lose momentum. But if I find that there's actually, I've done this for a couple of projects, and I find there's enormous power in just working on something a little bit each day. And I think that, and where that comes from is the fact that it's in your working memory, like you remember the esoteric parts of whatever you're working on. Yeah, there's still, I think I just need to find ways to be more efficient. Yeah, I will have, hopefully tomorrow I can actually have a bit of time to make a new video to actually officially announce the latest release that I just pushed with some of the new features. And I really need to get I need to get some videos out that actually pop off and make a bit more money. We can't print our own currency without first establishing our own. I think it makes sense. I'll probably just use the US dollar for now. That's what any kind of collapsed country that's just trying to get going. They all peg their like when Zimbabwe collapsed, the like official post office of Zimbabwe started using US dollars, and US dollars are accepted everywhere. Everyone who makes their own currency is usually just well, what everyone thinks when they start their own currency, they're like, hey, if I just start my own currency, I can just print a bunch myself, and then I can make myself a billionaire. And then it never works. It's not sustainable. Or you end up they just end up committing fraud. 23 days? 23 days till what? We're at day 73 here. They'll make 1 trillion USD. Yeah, I'm sure eventually I'll be able to make that much. Peg the currency to maple syrup. That's one option. Be backed by snow. Yeah, like there's a lot of snow in Axel Heiberg. That could be the #1 export, maybe. Snow and ice. Read the other message for 1T. Printing our own money. I mean, printing money sounds great, but you also gotta like do useful things. Or I could just use gold, physical gold. Did I spell that wrong? Lower CANON. Oh no, wait, it's probably canonical lower. Backed by blockchain? Nope. There'll be absolutely no blockchain in Axel Heiberg. Pig to gold? You might get invaded? No, but we'll just get rich. To make world coins to give you vote? Decide fate of humanity? You're getting ahead of yourself. Gotta be productive first. Do you implement all the TY stuff yourself? Or do you use the library? No, there are currently no libraries. The only thing I have is I add a JNI. I made a little JNI library to call some C++ functions. Actually, I can just show that in here. So to call this signal window change, set up a window change handler so that that handles if I like do this event when I resize the window. That's the only thing. I haven't necessarily. I mean, there's like end cursors and stuff people have mentioned. If I implemented mouse support, I probably would use end cursors. But at this point, I don't have. There's no mouse support in it, and it's not high on the priority list. But in terms of like drawing and stuff, for like ANSI escape sequences, there really isn't that. That's all done from scratch, but it's actually not that. What's in there is not very complicated, so I could swap it out for something else. Have you found it be a lot of work? Do you have to account for different types of terminals? I have started to encounter like some issues with different types of terminals and stuff, but it works pretty well in like a TTY, and there are a few different terminal emulators that one of the biggest issues has been character widths in certain versions of Tmux or Screen. The buggy and the column positioning is kind of buggy. I don't even think end cursors would help with that. A billionaire will buy it. It will make 1 trillion. But if he's a billionaire, how can he afford 1 trillion? I'm working on a hobby project with the TY, using a TY library, but it feels like pretty heavy dependency. But I'm not sure if I want to implement all that myself. Well, I don't know. It depends what your constraints are. If it's even if it is a heavy dependency, if it works, then as long as you're not running on like an embedded device or something, then if it's kind of slow or bloated, it's if it works, it works. I mean, we can also try to put gold in there. I mean, we could probably find oil though. Yeah, you never know. There might be some oil reserves around Axel Heiberg. All right, let's try to figure out why the program's not compiling. 134. Always had programs with the programs when I was using Tmux. Yeah, in the older version of the most recent version, I think the character width calculation is a bit buggy. You can also try to find gold in there. Oh, I already read that. Yeah, it's a fairly unexplored location. There could be all sorts of treasure up there. There's apparently a lot of petrified, a really extensive petrified forest up there. Tell me why my last comment didn't show up. That's because, so if I go up here, see up there where my cursor is, it says top chat, and it's possible to switch that to live chat, and then it shows everything. Now the thing is, I need some moderation, so to be lazy, I actually just leave it on top chat, so it whatever YouTube's auto moderation, like if someone starts spamming like swear words or something, that'll get modded automatically. But at the same time, I'm also interested in knowing, like, if people get, I've had it just interesting to know when people get censored. And so it regularly happens that people both type stuff in chat that is very innocuous, sometimes even channel members, long-time channel members and people who do super chats and stuff and are just talking about innocuous stuff, and those people will also get censored. So I think I could put it on live chat and then manually moderate it, but I find it more interesting to know what's being censored, because usually people will notice and then mention it. Maybe if they have a flag, it's honestly it's completely unpredictable. It makes no sense. Like sometimes if you talk about like current events, like stuff going on in wars or whatever, and someone was typing like a random command, and they said it was like a Python command, and they found if they added -m to it, it would get censored all the time. But if they removed the -m, then it wouldn't. So who knows what's going on. Federal Reserve can print money out of thin air, and it works. So can we. Well, the US also has stuff to protect their currency. Just have to strong arm the world. It's easier said than done. I mean, that's what they're trying to do with the whole BRICS currency, but it's not working too well. I think it was because I used Federal Reserve. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, that's not even it's funny because people can swear all the time, but like mentioning the Federal Reserve is I find that's the way YouTube censors the chat, it almost does make it make me more conspiratorial, or like more, or conspiracy theorist. there been any particular part about the mining game that's been hard to implement? I guess it depends what you mean by hard. The character width detection, that's been a consistent, because I'm using emoji characters. They have inconsistent dimensions on different terminals, and also the sometimes the even if you empirically detect the column update, some terminals are kind of buggy with emojis because they're not super standard. So that's that's an issue. Also, kind of printing and correctly rendering things on the screen at the right location. That was you would think that'd be easy, but I have had a hard time with that. It's interesting. Sometimes I wonder if I mention the small hats by name, it just crashes all our computers. Yeah, it's there's a lot of who knows. Like at this point, from streaming for a while, I'm sure that there's like really, really deep level detection of like what we're talking about on a very, very deep level that goes into the moderation. I say, if not just for like moderation, but for other kinds of, data collection to make sure someone's not like selling illegal material or something, or and who knows how the filters work at the top, like at the most high level. As someone who's literally coding, I'm sure you have some ideas. Yeah, I mean, like it's one. On one hand, it's like everyone knows how advanced technology is now. But then on the other hand, it's like, it still almost sounds like crazy to say that, the algorithm is listening to you constantly and understanding your words and then making, decisions based on that. But I've, like from streaming for this long, I have had some weird interactions where like people come into the, what I thought was people come into the chat and it's actually, I'm talking to bots and I know that I was talking to bots because there was like five of these bots that all started like spamming the chat at once. They were like first saying like kind of normal things like people would, and I was like talking to them a bit, and then they started like spamming like totally random stuff, and then they all started choreograph, and like they would, all 5 of them would say the same message at once, and yeah. The more I think about that, I should actually make a little short video blurb about that, because I think that's a very like interesting. Like I'm sure people know that's probably happening, but to have like a demonstrated example of it happening in real time, I think is interesting. So that, there are bots out there that come into streams and just listen to people. Dead internet theory. Yeah, I mean, recently I've been getting recommended a lot more memes and stuff, and the first comment will be like a live internet theory, and that's I also find that amusing, that like that like the internet is becoming so dead that it's like there's so many bots, but the AI is becoming so sophisticated, it like now has a sense of humor, and it'll send you memes and like funny things, and there's something kind of amusing about like this all-knowing being of the universe will just send you like really, or like when some weird event happens in the world, it'll just some arbitrary video, like a comedy skit from 10 years ago will start trending because the internet is alive. The internet AI is getting out of hand. But then you see a video of Chinese robots playing soccer, you're like, oh, we're good. Or is that what they want us to think? I don't know. I mean, the cutting edge technology we have now is pretty insane. In terms of like warfare, the stuff that I think is pretty crazy is the rapid advances in like drones, fiber optic drones, and counter drone stuff. Can you explain what you're doing, please? Sure. Let me try to get it to compile first. Let's see. Oh yeah, I have a bunch of other examples to fix. So the answer to your question is I am working on a terminal-based video game where you simulate the process of mining blocks of iron ore on the Linux terminal. And I'm currently working on doing some refactoring. The AI wins again. Did you get censored? Nope, you got me. Now hopefully this doesn't immediately crash. Nice. It did not crash. So someone asked me about what I'm working on, and this is the demonstration. What do you do with the ore once you mine it? Currently, there is nothing you can do with it. You can turn it into. You can make 3 different types of pickaxes, and they. So by default, you can only mine 1 block at a time. With I think wooden pickaxe, you mine out to a distance of 1. With stone, you mine out to a distance of 2, and with iron pick, you mine to a distance of 3. So not super super intricate. There's almost no actual game mechanics in the game. I've been most of my time has been spent trying to build like the systems and stuff and just get the user interface working. I'm going to partially through this. All right, there is no crash. That's a good sign. What motivated you to make this game? What was the spark? I'd say the working on this was kind of an evolution of just trying to work on what is the most practical thing to make money. So I started my business 10 years ago. The idea was to build a single-person software consulting business, do custom software, and I started off doing some web stuff and building like being a software consultant / contractor type person. The idea was to get a work pipeline going, build it up from there, and over those 10 years, I concluded that business model is not viable. I'd always wanted to do like an actual product, but I thought that was not practical, and I figured if I could just get enough, it was not practical to bootstrap that. So I thought if I could get enough cash flow, then I would have enough money to bootstrap a traditional startup with a product. But over time, it has occurred to me that, and the world changes every couple of years. So I think at this point, it makes sense to work on building something and then like monetize the progress of building it. So the game itself doesn't necessarily make a substantial amount of money, but I can use it as a substrate for like making more videos, doing like progress updates, and the kind of like I started doing social media about 5 years ago. Blogging was actually a big thing I did. I started a blog pretty early on. Some of my stuff got on Hacker News, and so that was a pretty reliable way to make traffic. So I made more and more blog posts. Although I never made any money from that, and I got some email signups and stuff. Then I started when video became a thing. I made a couple simple YouTube videos and embedded those in the blog, and those got some traction. And it just as kind of the natural evolution of things, the video production quickly eclipsed the blog stuff, and so my overall business strategy is just keep like doubling down on whatever is working and produces money and growth. And so that has led me to this position where I am here. There's a lot more I could fill in, but it would take too long. I think I've explained some in some of my videos. Just switched to Linux Mint. What now? I've never used Linux Mint, but I've heard it's pretty good. I don't know. Anything. You're on Linux. You're in control. You can delete everything, or you can install those fancy window managers and stuff. I don't know anything about them, but I know lots of people like them. Let me think. Oh yeah. So I think the point of doing what I just did what should I go to learn the command prompt? It depends what you want to learn. There's like hundreds of commands. I'd say it actually makes sense to start with a task first. Well, if you want to learn general theory, you could watch. I have a few videos. If you look at some of my long form videos, so I have a video on some of the videos where I'm wearing like the stupid hat, but like most of them are not too long. It's maybe like 8 minutes. Right? Most of them I think are actually even less than 8 minutes. One about like shell built-ins. That's a pretty good one to watch, and then to understand stuff. Actually, if you watch my I have a playlist of all my favorite Linux command series, all like 120 of them. So it'll take you 2 hours to watch all of my shorts videos, and there's a tremendous amount of time put into those videos, and so if you just kind of speed run them. Actually, I don't know. Can you put a playlist on 2x speed? Well, you probably wouldn't even want to. There's so much detail in those. But yeah, overall, though, I think it makes sense to start with the task. Because there's like a million commands that you could learn. Like there's tons of commands even that I'm not even that familiar with. Well, in reality, like a command is basically, for the most part, with some exceptions, is basically just an executable. So there's as many commands technically as there are programs that exist. Let's see what this does. Can you explain static to me in Java? That's, for a while that became like a meme. People would ask what static means in Java. I wonder, are you the same person that asked it last time? Nope, just saw you're an experienced programmer. I want to ask because I'm new to Java. Static is sorry, this is taking up all my brain power. I think that's all of them. So static The simplest thing, so if you have, like, say, a static variable in a class, the whole point of having a class is, the easiest way to conceptualize it is every time you make an instance of a class that has, like, a variable like int I or something, that variable, there's a copy of that variable in memory. So if you create 10 classes of that variable, then there's like 10 different integers taking up a different memory location in your physical RAM. And so you're using, if you create 1,000,000 instances, you're using a million times that one integer location. Now, if you make it static, that means that every single instance, if you create 1,000,000 instances of that class, that static member int I only exists in one location, so you only have one copy of it. And static is useful in that way because you can reduce the memory footprint of stuff. And there are cases where you would actually want to only have, like, a pretty standard example is like a reference to a database. So you create a database singleton where you only have one. You don't want to have 5,000 different instances of a class for connecting to the database. And a big reason for that would be, like, transaction management. You don't want multiple different classes to start different transactions. You want one thing that handles all of it together. And so you could use static for that member. And for static functions in a class, it's the same concept. So in a static function in a class, you cannot reference the this variable, and an advantage of that is that you can just directly reference the static method in a class without even creating an instance of that class. Just popping on to say hi. Hope all's well. Yeah, making some progress as always. What do you think of the 50 series situation? Do you think AMD is doing any better? Also, do you think 8 gigabytes of VRAM is enough for 2025? I actually have no idea what the 50 series situation is. I don't keep up with hardware at all. I can't afford new hardware. I'm still using, like, my streaming laptop is a garbage old laptop from over 10 years ago. There's a whole conversation going on in chat that isn't showing up on your end. Oh, interesting. Is it? Huh. In the live chat? I don't. Maybe it's bots talking to each other. Oh, I realize you're 13 minutes behind. Yes, static. Static just means it's not specific to the instance. So, non-static methods are there's a different copy in every instance. NVIDIA basically went ham on AI and made gaming performance ass. And that makes sense. I can see why they would do that, to cash in. I mean, it almost, I would assume that the push forward with AI could also benefit gaming, but I mean, theoretically it should push the hardware forward. Any thoughts on the proliferation of vibe coding? It's very high on my to-do. Like, people keep asking me every single stream about AI and vibe coding and stuff. I have yet to really use any of the AI tools. I just don't have time. But let's see. I want to get another video out about the last game release, and then maybe I'll have to move on to Claude. Seems to be one of the main tools that everyone's using. I still have to research them, and if I'm going to waste time using them, I should probably like pay for whatever's the latest and greatest model. You think NVIDIA's use of proprietary software that's locked to their GPUs is going to harm the development of AI? They probably do that so they can control it and make a lot of money. So probably not in the short term, but maybe in the long term. But then again, AI is already pretty amazing at the moment. So I think there's still like a lot of catching up to do in the software realm. I think the hardware is probably, like, even if the hardware got better, it would take time for the software to catch up. XAI is decent as well. Yeah, there's like a million different ones. I've never heard of XAI, but is that like X.com AI or like the Grok AI? But are you doing some sort of private consulting on top of streaming coding? I had been doing still a bit of development work, but that's kind of I tried up to nothing. But at the moment, I'm not doing any consulting work. I do get, from some of my previous videos, I do get a trickle of like inquiries, but it's people want me to build like a dating app or something, or it's well, if you watch some of my videos about consulting, you'll understand why I just don't pursue those anymore. In the hardware space, I feel AI can be faster if we make faster hardware accelerators. Yeah, even if it doesn't get faster, the hardware doesn't get faster, there's still AI is amazing now, and I'm a software developer, and I haven't really even used AI coding tools yet. Of course, I tried them out when ChatGPT came out, but back then there was no like way to integrate it with the code base. But now that exists, and it seems like the bugs have been worked out a bit, then it might be actually worth trying now. XAI is just Elon AI. Interesting. It all seems a bit much. What exactly seems a bit much? Elon Musk. Is this related to some recent drama with Grok? I know Grok is it's always doing crazy stuff. I'm not I'm not well read on the latest and greatest Elon drama. All right, that does not crash, which is great. Have you heard about SpaceX Starship upper stage exploding? I don't know. I know of a explosion in the last like month or something, but there's I mean, he's been launching so many rockets. I don't even know. And there's been so many successes and so many failures. I don't even know. I don't even keep track of them anymore. All right, that was necessary to simplify this. Should set them back a few months until Flight 10. I don't even think those rockets go anywhere. No, he's done quite a few. He's boosted quite a few payloads. There's been a few. At this point, I mean, they at least launch satellites and all kinds of stuff. I guess you're specifically talking about Starship. Technology development is what's important. Yeah, I mean the contribution. I mean, say what you will about Elon, but the contribution he's done to spaceflight is pretty incredible. right. This did not crash. That's really awesome. That means I can simplify the code even more and get rid of 5,000 null checks. All right, let's see if that works. Did the rocket explode near the ground? Oh, it messed up the ground station. The car he sent to space looks so fake. Looks so fake you know it's real. I think it has like an identifiable orbit, and you can, like, if you have good enough equipment, I think you can. There's a Wikipedia page about it, so you can probably confirm or deny its existence as a celestial object. Starship blew up all fueling for a static fire. Just take a while for them to validate new hardware. Honestly, you would think by now, of all things, they would fix the exploding problem, exploding in the launch pad. Like, why is that such a hard problem to fix? Like, even if you have a fuel leak or something, there must be, you would think that there would be some generic approach you could use. Yeah, blew up while fueling. Like, there's been a number of times when it blows up before it's even launching. Last year, Falcon 9 was responsible for approximately half of the orbital launches last year alone. Yeah, Elon's, love him or hate him, he's made his mark in history. Couldn't that be? Couldn't that just be satellites on balloons? I mean, theoretically, you could host internet on balloons, but then how do you control where they are? I think that would be almost as technically difficult as just launching them as satellites. I mean, they're all, you can see them in the night sky. They're like they're making astronomers mad because now you can't, like, somebody put those satellites up there. Just a face for multiple operations. Yeah, I mean, it could be a psyop. Like, maybe it's just it's like 5 million people in the government doing it. I mean, to some degree, I think for a lot of them, honestly, I think what actually kind of happened was, like, the government has certain needs. Like, the government needs to launch all these satellites, and they need either a military or a private sector capacity to fulfill certain operations, like launching massive amounts of payloads to orbit, like, you know, just all the stuff he has done. And so I think that what the government does is they look at the private sector and they just say, okay, who in the private sector is doing this best? And then they just pick the winner, and they're like, okay, we've got 10 companies that are doing rocket stuff. The top company is going to make unlimited money. Like, the government will just open their wallet and say, take as much money out of this wallet as you want to put 1 million satellites in orbit and, like, we'll launch this thing and develop this military technology, because, like, we will pay anything to get you to do this. And they do that to the top company. And they even like NASA helped SpaceX a bunch, and so there were a lot of, like, you know, NASA engineers who were basically working on the payroll of the American taxpayer in order to meet the objectives. I think for the ISS rendezvous, but that's not really surprising. But I think it's just an extreme example of where, like, if you're the best, that you win, and if you're the second best, it's worth nothing. Higher you go, the more extreme the condition. Those weather balloons are not going to last for long. Before you know it, your $1 billion satellite is going to smash into a small town. Yeah, you also have to I don't know, like, your I'm not sure if your signal strength and stuff would be predictable enough with balloons. What if they move everything to the private, to hide what they're doing behind a private wall? I'm not sure. Alright, that is great. That removed even more of those null checks that were everywhere. SpaceX even have any scientists that perform experiments in space? They need NASA's astronauts to actual experiments and study? I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. I assume with the budgets they operate at, they would have access to a lot of really. There's probably like even former NASA people that work for SpaceX by now. All right, that has been greatly simplified from what it was before. Only 400 lines. As announced, Starship and SLS are the only heavy launch systems in development. Given the success of Falcon 9, hopefully interplanetary exploration will exist within our lifetime. Yeah, it's actually awesome, like the possibility that we could like go to Pluto or something. Like there's enough matter out there. It's another technical challenge to get over, but there's enough like matter and energy and stuff in other places in the universe. We could there's all kinds of weird exotic things floating around in our solar system. There's some I think there's like hundreds, maybe thousands of like small planetoids and stuff in our own solar system that technically we could we go there and live. There's one that's it's basically the core. It's the metallic core of a planet. So there was like a planet in early formation. I don't know the name of it. There's a Wikipedia page. It's basically it's like a giant part of a planet, but it's basically just the metallic core, the metal-rich core of the planet, and the outer part of it was blown away somehow. And there's all kinds of exotic, weird stuff like that that's in our own solar system. And theoretically, we could go to these places and inhabit them and build colonies there and mine them. If we have a rover on Mars, why can't we get any real footage from it? I'm pretty sure there's at least some footage out there of it. It's computer renderings. I think there's some legit footage out there. We've had lots of footage of that for years. We've had if it's all fake, it would be more work to fake it than it would be to just go there and do it. But on that note, I think I'll probably call it a night. This was another successful stream. I got some work done on the block mining simulation game. Removed a bunch of refactored some stuff. I guess one of the next things I can work on, I was thinking there's a way to optimize how this this printing function works. So when I translate, so when I move around the map area, I technically don't need to reiterate through this for the whole map area. And I could just tell it to go through a subset of the area. Been an amazing high-depth conversation with you chaps. Excellent. Glad you enjoyed it. Great stream. Be back to discuss world domination tomorrow. Yep. Tomorrow will be day 74. All right. Talk to you later, guys.